Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Homelessness Resolution Program, known as HRP NOFA Overview. My name is Whitney Whitaker, and I am the Homelessness Resolution Program Manager, also known as HRP, formerly the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, known as ESG. Our vision for Colorado is a state where everyone has a safe, stable, and affordable place to call home. We believe that by working together, we can create a future where homelessness is rare, brief when it occurs, and no one is left behind. We encourage you to visit the Making Homelessness History in Colorado playbook. This tool outlines a series of guiding principles, key goals, cross-cutting approaches, and proven solutions created to support communities in their efforts to create robust homeless response systems designed to meet the needs of those experiencing homelessness. Before we dive into today's content, please keep in mind the following. This is a pre-recorded webinar. If you have any questions that come up during the webinar, please submit them using the Homelessness Resolution Program 24 NOFA question form. This link will be available through September 11th. Today's agenda includes an overview of the Homelessness Resolution Program. This includes a program timeline, application overview, eligible activities, what it means to be a fiscal agent and/or give out subawards, the Homelessness Resolution Program requirements, and overall resources to help guide you through your programming.
Hello, my name is Aaliyah, and I'm one of the HRP grant managers, primarily working with grantees in the MDHI COC. The Homelessness Resolutions Program represents a significant advancement in our efforts to address homelessness within the state. It's not just a continuation of the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, but an evolution that integrates more comprehensive resources and strategies. HRP is a collaborative initiative that combines funding from multiple sources, including the state of Colorado, the Colorado Division of Housing, and federal programs through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. And by pulling these resources, we're better equipped to provide robust support to individuals and families in need, ensuring that they have access to a wide range of services tailored to their unique circumstances. The core mission of HRP is to provide immediate and effective assistance to those who have experienced a housing crisis or homelessness. Our goal is to help these individuals regain stability and permanent housing as swiftly as possible, recognizing that time is critical in preventing the long-term consequences of homelessness. The focus on rapid rehousing and stabilization is central to the program's design, ensuring that we are not just providing temporary relief, but fostering lasting solutions. HRP operates as a reimbursement model grant. This means that agencies must first incur eligible expenses, which are then documented and submitted for reimbursement utilizing a pay request. This approach requires agencies to manage their financial resources effectively, as they need to cover costs up front before receiving funds from the program. While this model can present challenges, it ensures that funds are used appropriately and that agencies maintain accountability in their spending. Our division provides ongoing support to agencies to help them navigate this process, ensuring that they can maximize their impact while complying with program guidelines. Next slide. The Homeless Resolutions Program application was released August 12th and is due September 13th by 11:59 p.m. By the end of November, you will receive an email notification regarding your award, whether your organization was selected for funding or not. The anticipated start date for this grant agreement is April 1st, 2025, and it will end March 31st, 2026. In this slide, I will provide an overview of the HRP application process. Efficient use of the Neighborly portal is crucial for managing your HRP application and documentation. Here's how to get started, ensure proper documentation, and collaborate effectively within the platform. First, to access the Neighborly portal, you will begin by using the provided link. This platform will be your central hub for submitting and managing all necessary documents for HRP. Next, you'll click on the register button to create your account. Use your email address as your username. This keeps it simple and consistent. After registering, you'll receive a verification email. Be sure to check your inbox, and if you don't see it, look in your spam or junk folders. Once you're registered, you'll use the same Neighborly portal link to log in with your email and password. Make sure to remember these credentials, as you'll need them each time you access the portal to manage your application. Please keep in mind that properly labeling your documents is essential for efficient processing and review of your application. Use a consistent naming format. For example, your agency name and then document name. So for example, you can say the state of Colorado, comma, W9. This helps in quickly identifying and organizing your submissions. Clear labels prevent any mix-ups or delays in processing your application, and it's especially important when submitting multiple documents or when different team members are involved in the process. As you fill out your application and upload supporting documents, make sure to save your progress regularly. This prevents loss of information and ensures that you can pick up right where you left off. Once all required fields and documents are completed, submit your application through the Neighborly platform. Double check that everything is in order before finalizing your submission. Please note that if multiple team members are working on the application, you can add them to the case within Neighborly. Follow the prompts in the platform to add users, giving them access to the application. This allows for collaborative input while maintaining control over the process. Ensure that everyone involved is clear on their responsibilities and aware of deadlines. Regular communication is key to a smooth and efficient application process. Next slide. When applying for funds through the Homeless Resolutions Program, your organization must meet specific threshold requirements and understand the importance of the cure period. These steps ensure that your application is complete, in compliance, and eligible for consideration. To qualify for HRP funding, your organization must have either a 501c3 nonprofit status or be a recognized unit of local government. This requirement ensures that funding is directed towards entities with the legal structure and mission aligned with public service and community impact. Only specific costs and activities are eligible for funding under HRP, so it's crucial to align your funding requests with HRP's eligible activities, which typically include homelessness prevention, rapid rehousing, emergency shelter operations, and supportive services. All applicants must use the Homeless Management Information System, also known as HMIS, to record client-level data. This system is critical for tracking the services provided and outcomes achieved, ensuring transparency and accountability. For victim service providers who are unable to use HMIS due to the confidentiality concerns, a comparable database must be used to fulfill this requirement. A successful application includes all required supporting documentation, such as proof of nonprofit status, detailed budgets, program plans, and any other materials specified in the HRP application guidelines. The cure period is a designated time frame that allows applicants to address any deficiencies in their application. If your application is found to be incomplete or contains errors, you will be notified and given the opportunity to correct these issues. This period is your final chance to ensure that all required elements are in place, which is crucial for your application to be considered. After receiving notification of any deficiencies, immediately review the feedback and identify the necessary corrections or missing elements. Gather any additional documentation or revise your application as needed and submit the corrected information within the given time frame. It's important to act quickly and thoroughly during the cure period to avoid delays or potentially having your application become disqualified. If your application does not meet all required elements by the end of the cure period, it will be automatically disqualified and will not be further reviewed. Next slide, please. Application evaluation. So applications will be evaluated based on how clear and complete your responses are. Provide detailed and well-organized information to ensure your application stands out. Maximum points are awarded to applicants who not only reference best practices, but also provide specific examples for their program. For instance, rather than just stating that your program is housing focused, detail on who on your team is responsible, the methods they use, and the scale of their impact. A strong application will clearly demonstrate your understanding of the Emergency Solutions Grant and the Homelessness Resolutions Program, as well as the priorities of the state of Colorado and HUD. Show how your program aligns with these priorities and effectively addresses the needs of the community. If your organization has participated in DOH or ESG programs before, your past performance will be a key factor in the evaluation. Highlight any successful outcomes and lessons learned from previous engagements to strengthen your case. And the overall strength of your program design and the strategy for its implementation are critical components of the review as well. Lastly, ensure your application clearly outlines a robust plan with achievable goals, measurable outcomes, and a solid approach to program execution. Next. So pictured here is the scoring rubric that will be used to score your HRP application. Applications are scored using a 0-3-point scale, with 0 indicating you did not answer the question at all, and 3 indicating you provided exemplary details and thoroughly answered the questions. You will be scored through 4 different categories, including available activity types, project overview, applicant capacity, and budget. The total amount of points possible is 126 points. Please keep this scoring rubric in mind while completing your application. I will now pass it on to Olivia, who will discuss eligible program activities in more detail.
Hi, everybody. I am Olivia. I primarily focus on HRP and currently ESG recipients in the Balance of State region, as well as some in the NOFA region. So I will be going over the eligible activities available for funding under the HRP NOFA. So these eligible activities include street outreach, emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, homelessness prevention, and then use and management of the HMIS systems, homeless management information systems, or if you are a victim services provider and utilizing a comparable database, and those expenses would be eligible, and administration, which is limited to a total of 7.5% of your overall proposed budget. So now I'll go into each of these eligible activities a bit more in depth to give you a clear understanding of what costs and activities are eligible under each of these components. So emergency shelter is designed to provide essential services to households experiencing homelessness within emergency shelters, as well as the costs associated with operating emergency shelters. This definition can include day shelters if the primary purpose of that facility is to provide temporary shelter for people experiencing homelessness, including those who are part of subpopulations. Emergency shelters also do not require occupants utilizing those services to sign leases or any occupancy agreement in order to stay there. And then the funding available is eligible for both essential services and operations costs. So as you can see, essential services costs include costs associated with directly providing supportive services to clients who are utilizing your emergency shelter. So these can include costs for case management, supports for clients' childcare or education services, employment and job training, outpatient health services, legal services, life skills training, mental health services, substance use treatment services, as well as client transportation. And then operations costs include maintenance, rent, security, vehicle fuel, equipment, insurance, utilities, food for your clients, and then other supplies for operations. This can also include hotel or motel vouchers if you are utilizing this model or utilizing it as an overflow model. So street outreach, similarly to emergency shelter, is designed to connect people experiencing homelessness to essential services. However, the key difference is that street outreach is primarily focused on serving people experiencing unsheltered homelessness, out-of-doors homelessness, rather than people utilizing emergency shelter systems. Street outreach dollars allow agencies to connect people experiencing out-of-doors, unsheltered homelessness to emergency shelter, housing, or other critical and essential services. And these eligible costs include essential services such as engagement, case management, client emergency health services and mental health services, client transportation, as well as additional services for special populations. So homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing have very similar associated eligible costs. However, they have a key difference within how these are defined under the HRP ESG program. So homelessness prevention, as the name suggests, is designed to prevent a household from experiencing homelessness and maintain their current housing situation or regain a more stable housing situation. Rapid rehousing is designed to rapidly exit a household from their experience of homelessness into stable housing. So homelessness prevention is designed to prevent a household from falling into homelessness and experiencing that altogether, whereas rapid rehousing is designed to support households who are currently experiencing homelessness to rapidly rehouse them, as the name suggests, and regain housing with wraparound supports. So homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing has a number of components as far as eligible costs and activities. The first one is financial assistance for clients. This includes application fees, security deposits, last month rent payments, utility payments, and associated moving costs. This also includes housing relocation and stabilization services, which would be costs associated with support for clients to conduct housing search and placement, case management, mediation services, legal services, and potentially credit repair. And then the final component of these two programs is rental assistance. And this falls along a spectrum. It can go from short-term to medium-term assistance. Short-term typically means less than 3 months of financial support, rentals assistance support. And then medium-term assistance can range from 3 months to up to 24 months of rental assistance. This can also be used to support rental arrears, backdating up to 6 months. And then these assistances are eligible for both tenant-based and project-based housing. So HMIS, the Homeless Management Information Systems, as our team has already mentioned, is a database that is used to collect client-level data. And so under the HRP program and the ESG regulations, costs associated with managing and operating this system are eligible for reimbursement. This can include staffing for contributing to these databases. It can include service fees, equipment costs as well. And again, these activities must comply with HUD standards on participation, data collection, reporting under your local COC and HMIS team, and can also include activities for victim service providers. Finally, administration costs, as mentioned, must be limited to 7.5% of your overall budget. And these costs include overall project management, coordination, and monitoring and evaluation. These expenses cannot and should not include staff and overhead costs directly related to the eligible activities outlined previously, because those costs are eligible as part of each direct component. And I will pass it over to Holly to go over some of the ineligible activities outlined in this program.
Thank you, Olivia. Hi, my name is Holly Lemasurier. I'm another one of our homeless program specialists and a grant manager for agencies primarily in the Denver metro region and northern Colorado. So I would like to talk a little bit about ineligible activities. As you prepare an application and your budget for an HRP grant to support your eligible activities, it's also really important to be aware that some costs are ineligible for reimbursement. So we really just wanted to briefly touch on this. You can easily find lists of ineligible costs by doing an internet search for HUD, ESG, ineligible costs. And we also have a list of ineligible costs in our toolkit online. This slide does not include an exhaustive list of all ineligible costs, but is really just a reminder that some costs that you may encounter in your program or activities you want to do in your program cannot be reimbursed by ESG. So it's just important to always check the ESG regulatory code, the 24 CFR Part 576, which we reference many times in this program, will confirm your allowable costs, but also the nuances of ineligible costs. So, for example, while you saw in Olivia's slides in emergency shelter, client transportation costs can be covered as part of an essential service. This is specific to public transportation and excludes client car repairs and client gasoline costs, just as one example. But we will provide the resources on how to access the ESG regulations later in this presentation as well. Next slide, please. Another really important consideration as you're preparing your application is if you are planning to sub-award part of your HRP program funds to another agency as part of a partnership or a collaboration to deliver your program. The way that the funding works is that HUD allocates ESG funds to the state of Colorado based on a formula model. So every state gets an allocation of ESG funds, and then the Division of Housing, as the ESG recipient, then creates this application to pass the funds to other agencies. We create grant agreements to our subrecipients who will then perform the program activities. However, there is another way that the Division of Housing awards funds, and this is to fiscal agents or pass-through entities who will then pass the funds to other eligible agencies, which are sub-recipients, to perform the activities of the grant. So the primary difference between a fiscal agent and a pass-through entity is that when you apply to be a fiscal agent, it means that you are responsible for the process of accepting competitive applications and doing contracts for the activities to the sub-recipients, and that you are responsible for managing the compliance of these sub-recipients and ensuring that it follows all ESG and state of Colorado compliance and procurement regulations. A pass-through entity that subawards part of its funds is primarily a procurement activity where you are passing funds to a vendor in excess of $10,000. And so this is more of a micro purchase threshold, but is still considered a subaward relationship. All pass-through subawards that exceed $10,000 must be approved by CDO, by Colorado Division of Housing, and we have a process for that. We will be in touch with anyone who's applying to be a physical agent or plans to pass through part of their funds to subawards. But if you are planning either of these activities, please be very clear in your application and identify your planned subawards in your budget as well. And we can follow up appropriately with all the information you may need. There's also a fiscal agent management toolkit on our website and lots of information about how to manage a program as a fiscal agent. So if you want more information, please refer to that. Next slide, please. Previous slide, please. So in addition to understanding all the program activities that can be funded with the Homeless Resolution Program grant, it's also important to be aware of the administrative requirements and the compliance activities that you are obligated to under contract when you accept a Homeless Resolution Program award. We've mentioned a couple of those, but this includes participating in the required reporting systems, having all of your homeless resolution funded programs detailed in official policies and procedures that are in compliance with the federal and state regulations. And these must be in place at the start of the grant contract. And finally, you're also required to participate in monitoring. Okay, next slide, please. So let's start with the reporting systems of our program. All recipients are required to report on their funded activities in several systems. We've already mentioned HMIS a couple times, and that these are the client level databases that are administered in partnership with local continuums of care. And not only do they capture client level data, but they're designed to capture data on regional homelessness response at a system scale, and to also understand the scope of programs and the performance of programs. We've mentioned this several times, but just be aware, all of the Homeless Resolution Program recipients are required to collect program data in HMIS or the comparable database for victim service providers. So you'll receive more information on how to enroll your program HMIS or another database if your program is not yet included. So please be sure to indicate in your application if this program is already documented in HMIS. You'll get a prompt in the application, so please let us know if you'll need help getting set up in HMIS. And finally, it's a requirement that your HMIS reports are submitted to us at the state quarterly to help us understand our statewide program impact and our performance. So it's an essential activity of the Homeless Resolution Program. I'll just briefly mention SAGE. Any recipients who are funded specifically with federal ESG funds, as opposed to some of our state funds, will get more information on how to provide a final report to HUD through SAGE if that is needed. So more on this at a later time, but just know if we pass federal ESG funds to you, you'll be required to also do a final report in SAGE. And finally, and probably the platform you'll be interacting with the most is called Neighborly. And this is our grant management and tracking database where you've already probably started your application. We do all of our reimbursement requests, and these quarterly performance reports are submitted here. So be aware, if you're awarded our program funding, you and your grant manager will track your budget, all your reimbursements and your reporting and your spend down on this Neighborly platform. So you will also get more information on this if you haven't used it before, so that you understand how to use it. Next slide, please. I'll pass it on to Kat to continue some of the program requirements.
Hi, my name is Kat Van Ramshorst. I am a part of the Homeless Resolution Program team, serving mainly the victim service providers throughout the state. I am going to talk a little bit about the policies, procedures, and record keeping, as well as a few other details that will be helpful for you as you move forward with your application. It is your program's responsibility to develop policies and procedures that are in line with local, state, and federal requirements. The Department of Housing has developed policies and procedures that are linked in this slide, and you are welcome to use those as a building block, but there are many components that you will need to add to your version, including procedures for screening and eligibility, documentation collection and record maintenance, meeting the generally accepted accounting practices, also known as GAAP, how you coordinate within your community, and policies for confidentiality, grievances, and appeals. Next slide. We evaluate performance through monitoring. So our approach to monitoring is twofold. It's an ongoing process through which we maintain communication around subrecipient projects and activities, expenses, documentation, technical assistance, and other HRP-related efforts. It's also an annual scheduled formal monitoring session during which we'll meet and communicate with subrecipients on predetermined topics, as well as topics that may arise during that session. Monitoring sessions involve a risk assessment completed by Department of Housing staff and a virtual or on-site review of your program. Notifications typically go out a month in advance and will include details about what we will need to review before and during, as well as the risk assessment and whether the review will be virtual or on-site. Next slide, please. I'm also going to talk about the resources that are available for grants through the Homeless Resolution Program. There is a lot of really useful information on the HRP website under the HRP Toolbox section. This is through the Department of Housing. It has the pay request guidance and templates, pre-recorded webinars on grant management, monitoring exhibits, and other resources that should help answer most administration questions. The link to this website is included in this presentation. Office hours typically take place on the third Wednesday of the month from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. The purpose of these office hours is to hold space to provide technical assistance and guidance on specific topics. Some past topics have included pay request guidance, monitoring policies and procedures, and landlord engagement. The next office hours will take place September 18th, and I highly encourage that all grantees or potential grantees attend. Once per quarter, we also conduct community conversations where we welcome Homeless Resolution Program grantees along with other Department of Housing funded projects to dive into deeper conversations around homelessness and how to incorporate policies and procedures into grantee programming. Also, don't forget to sign up for the DOLA e-newsletter to receive updates and information. Next slide, please. If you have questions or are looking for additional resources, remember that the Homeless Resolution Program follows ESG regulations. So you can still use the ESG HUD Exchange website, linked on this page, along with a link to the ESG program components and activities webinar. The other links provide greater details on the regulations associated with each eligible activity and grant-related information that is most commonly referenced. Next slide, please. And last but not least, we want to give you a huge thank you for your dedication and your efforts in ending homelessness in Colorado. If you have any questions, you can use the HRP 24 question form. It will close on September 11th at 11:59 p.m. And if you have any questions, that would be the place to do it. Thank you so much.